Five, four, three, two, one, and we're back. Well, I'm back. I decided to do an unsupervised before I released not the first episode of 2025, however, before I started UTC 3 officially. Those watching video, you can see we've actually got some products. All UTC 3 episodes are going to be brought to you by getzen.com.au. These sprays in front here are the ones that my wife makes, and I've helped her over the years. That's a business that she's been running, and they're awesome gifts, boys, for the missus. And some of the blokes at UTC use the mist as well, the clear one in particular, the blue one, and the Protect as well. I'll go into more with that another time. However, just evolution and change, okay? I hyped up the new studio and then basically didn't release an episode, haven't released an episode pretty much all year. Good question would be why? Well, I released myself and I was released from the purgatory that I was in. It's a self-imposed purgatory. And look, the easy way to say it is that the contract I was doing and the job that I was doing came to an end. However, that meant that that period of intense reflection came to an end. I worked from home for the best part of 4 years, from 2021, in the peak of the chaos. And actually, in the peak of the chaos, I was delivering white card classes to Victoria at the same time that the Victorian police were opening fire on their citizens for protesting something and sharing information that all turned out to be true. And through that whole period, I was teaching the same thing over and over and over and over again. You know, right down to the same set of words, or right down to listening to the same recording, different people, however, same recording, same words, over and over and over again. And look, if you multiply by about 4 years, it's at least 500 classes, at least, and countless hours of listening to the same thing on repeat. And it's, firstly, let me say I was very grateful for that job. It kept a roof over my head during COVID. Mimi, when I got employed there, never asked me about being vaccinated. And so I didn't have to do that because I was working from home, and it kept a roof over my head. And obviously our head as a family. However, it was an intense period of reflection. And I say that because delivering a Zoom class, I was literally looking at myself in a camera every day. It was me in one corner and 15 students in another. Hour after hour after hour, repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And that time, the time doing that was very testing. And because one of the things I hate is doing things over and over and over again. You know, you do the same thing 1,000 times and expect a different result. And I think they call that the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And it was something that I had to do. And I got stuck in a self-imposed purgatory, though, where as I say, I felt that I had to do it. And I felt there was no way out, and it delivered false positives, right? So there was advantages to me being at home with the kids and the family and all those sorts of things. However, I also never really left lockdown. The reality is I started that job during lockdown. And, you know, that's all a big part of the thing that no one wants to talk about anymore. However, it's it's had an effect on everybody, and it had definitely had an effect on me, and it definitely had a mental effect on me. However, I was never really released from it until about 4 weeks ago when I was finally released from that job. And I'm calling this one release from purgatory because that's honestly what it felt like, guys. I mean, you got to understand that I stood in my shed for 10 plus hours a day, depending on how long a shift I was doing the same thing over and over again. And it was unexpected. However, when that release came, the, the pressure that released itself from my shoulders was unbelievable. And of course, because I had to come here into the shed every day, I had to do that. The moment that I was allowed, or I allowed myself, well, I didn't have to come up here every day, I didn't want to come up here for a little while. And I think that's probably fair enough. And as I say, there's no other way it's like it feels like I got released from prison because I didn't have the time to go and sit on a mountaintop and go for years to gather a perspective. However, I did have 3 years in my shed, or nearly 4 years in my shed by myself, to think and reflect. And it's been a trip. It's been an unbelievable and very difficult journey of intense reflection. And UTC3 was a part of that. But UTC3 and the studio in itself was also a coping mechanism to deal with the job that I was doing every day. I needed that to deal with that, if you know what I mean. And I needed that distraction to assist me to be able to do my job. And when we talk about, I suppose what we're talking about is distractions and coping mechanisms and things that you do to keep yourself sane so you can continue to do the things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you feel that you need to do. And what I've understood in the last 4 weeks is that I had an entire system set up to deal with doing that job and to deal with the fact that I was by myself the whole time and to deal with the fact that I never left the property and all the things that came with that were, again, false positives. Some positive positives, but some of them were false positives. We talk about, you know, sometimes we think that things are good for us when they're not, or we convince ourselves that they are. And then, and look, I think if we were honest with ourselves, we all do something like that. And it's, it's only when great change happens or when you are released from um, the thing that you are doing that you can then see what it was doing to you. And I think the reason that came to an end is that I had to release myself. I had to be released. The universe said move. And here we are. The thing about intense personal reflection is, and having a period of when you can do that by yourself, it's something that it can seriously drive you crazy. Okay. It can send you around the twist if you allow. And look, it did. It did. Honestly, this thing that I was doing drove me nuts. However, it also provided me with the time, the space, and the understanding to work through a lot of my own personal issues and personal understandings and self worth. And like I said, I'm very, very grateful for it because the knowledge that I gained from it and now the launch pad that I have through the self understanding and the understanding of self that I now have will allow me to move forward in a much more accelerated but under control manner due to the understanding of self and understanding my own self worth and my self belief. And, those that have followed the podcast for a long time know that that's been an issue of mine. And the reason I share the fact that it was an issue of mine is because it's an issue for us all. It is an issue for us all. It's something that we all face and we can all see and we've all experienced. And when I got released, as I say, it was like after the phone call where that was the end. I wasn't even like, I was in shock. However, it was like I pulled the roller door up on the shed and walked through out into the sun like I was being released from prison. There was an overwhelming feeling of relief and pressure released. And like I said, because I didn't have to come up here, I stopped coming up here. I needed a break. I needed some sleep. I've rested more in the last month or so and had good deep rest than I have in years. I think I was holding on too tight, like I said, I would was teaching classes during lockdown and teaching classes to Victoria, which was the harshest lockdowns, and Queensland as well. And all of that was going on and the chaos that was going on and the fact that I was bucking against the system, we turned out to be very, very, very right. Got to figure out. I keep bumping this mic. We're testing times, guys. I got to figure out where I'm going to put the mic without knocking it because I did that the other night with Daniel as well. I have to think about that. And the thing is, it's not like I haven't recorded some episodes. I've got 3 in the bag. So after this one gets released, we'll actually get episode 1, which was talking about the UFO disclosure. And I'm not going to waste time with that here tonight. However, I was waiting till Trump got in to hopefully give us some clarity, and all he said is that the FAA had it under control, which really, I don't, that's not what they were saying at the time. However, that was an episode that I recorded, and I got one with Angus and one with Mr. Mengel as well. So the reason I didn't release those is I felt that I had something that I hadn't said. And it was only through, I did some integration today, took some time to integrate some of the lessons and the learnings and to release some stuff that I was thinking about and dealing with. And when I did that and I came up to the shed to work out, I was like, I need to do another unsupervised. I need to get this stuff off my chest, only because, look, for a couple of different reasons. This is my show and I'll talk about what I want. However, at the same time, if you think about it, what self-imposed purgatory are you doing to yourself? Are you doing that to yourself? And have you reached the point where you've learned a lesson? Now, as with me, I'm stubborn. The universe pushed me. Okay. However, let's use that as an understanding that we don't have to be pushed. We can choose. But I think using my awareness to share. Can you tell I'm a bit rusty, potentially? Sharing my awareness with you guys, the reason that I do that is that in the hope that you can identify with some of the things I'm saying. Because if you need to release yourself from something that isn't serving you, then you need to release yourself or work towards releasing yourself or ask the question, why am I still doing the same thing over and over and over and over again? What is the lesson that I haven't learnt? And why can't I learn that lesson? Just asking that question will allow the space for it to come. And I think when it comes to distractions and coping mechanisms, because I had so many, because I had so many, I I didn't realize how many I had to try and just to get up and have to deal with that every day. I didn't realize. And once that got released, it's like, one of the concepts that we're, using the modern nomenclature is bandwidth, right? Where's your bandwidth? And what are you spending your bandwidth on? And I had such a significant piece of my bandwidth in order just to deal with what I was doing that when it got released, all the inflections and the reflections that I'd thought about and really worked through, they finally got the bandwidth to be released and the lessons dropped in. And, I've already, as far as finding work is concerned, I've got like 3 or 4 things on the go at anyone at the time. Right now, I've got like 3 or 4 things on the go. And in the past, because as a trainer, this happens, right? You it almost happens out. It happens out of the blue. You'll go to work one day and you just don't have a job. Now I know there's some trainers and assessors that listen to this. They know exactly what I'm talking about. However, that's what happens, guys. You will go to work. You go to work one day, everything will be fine. You get a phone call the next day, you haven't got a job. And there's no sick pay or holiday pay or anything else like that. You're just done, and it can be quite a shock. However, I was determined not to allow it to shock me this time. I was determined not to allow that to happen. And that took a bit of a period of adjustment, as I'm sure you can imagine, right? It took a period of adjustment to sit back and understand that and integrate that. But then UTC3 and the sanctum and the helm and all these things, that was all tied together as part of that. And then I'm like, well, okay, well, where's UTC now? And I had to sit back and wait. And what was so fascinating is about 5 weeks ago, and I know Ward won't mind me sharing this. So about 5 or 6 weeks ago now, one of the brothers of UTC came out just to say good day and just to see the sanctum and to catch up. And he helped me. We put some shelves up, and that was cool. He wanted to help put his little stamp on the sanctum. So thank you very much, brother. Much appreciated. And anyway, it turned out that we were going to do this, we're going to do that. And I had the runes because I've been playing with some of my stuff. And I was like, do you want a rune reading? Let's do some runes. And I checked with Ward today on the day that I recorded this. And I said, man, how accurate was that reading for you? And he's like, very. He's like, it really helped me. And he dealt with what he had to deal with. He's been on holidays and he's coming back and he feels great. And that reading really helped him. And the thing is, at the time when, because I did it for him and then I did it for myself, and my reading was interesting because one of the runes, and it was the present rune, so like past, present, future, and an extra decided to come and play, and one of them was like pause, right? And look, I'd already moved on from the position that I was in, and was, I'm like, yeah, UTC3, let's go, let's go, let's go, and no, the rune said pause. And here we are 5 weeks after the pause, or 4 weeks after the pause, or whatever it is. And that was an unintentional pause, but one that was needed because I had to figure out where this is at and what I'm doing, and trying to integrate the things that I wanted to integrate to share the new version and the new studio and all those sorts of things. So it was fascinating that I didn't expect it. And the thing is, I actually, because of life and things that happened and getting some rest and just taking a minute and, but at the same time hustling to get as many different things on the go as I can, because diversification is key, which is one of my personal buzzwords at the moment. I'm not going to rely on one source of income. And I don't think that's wise in today's day and age. I think you need to have a think about how you can diversify yourself. And look, that will include some sponsorship on the show, right? Some of it's going to be personal, like getzen.com.au. However, there's some other partners that we're going to start working with because, look, everyone else is doing it. And it's not, I'm doing it because everyone else is. I'm doing it because not only are these cool people who want to collaborate and work together, but they're guys and girls like me, just hustling, doing their own thing, independent, right? And that's how I want to try and share some of these products with you guys. And it won't be something that I don't use. Okay. And that's an important part of the show. However, I had to understand how to actually do that and how to how to integrate that, because the idea that I had when I was doing that job is completely different to the idea that I have now, because the amount of knowledge and integration that happened since then, it's completely changed my outlook and my perspective. And it's fascinating. So it's like the real truth is that I need to do this show less and less. That's my real truth. Because doing the studio, resetting the show, all that sort of stuff was one of the distractions that I used to help cope with what I was doing. And, one of the reasons the show has started the last sort of year or so is because I dealt with my self worth, and I don't have a inbuilt need to do this. So I had to figure out, again, separating myself from again, it's like, okay, so do you actually want to do this? And what are your reasons behind it? What is the passion behind doing this stuff? And there's still a passion. And look, there's been some unbelievably cool things that we've discovered uh, since we last spoke. The research has continued, the field work in Queensland has continued, and we've found something amazing and massive. However, that's part of the documentary. So I've got to mum's the word on that one until the documentary comes out. However, amazing and new discoveries, not looking at other people's stuff, new discoveries, genuine UTC discoveries, which is just so humbling to be a part of. And look, I always say we, and one of the show that I did with Angus, he correctly goes, "Look, man, it is your show." I say we because we is us. UTC stopped being a totally me thing a long time ago. It has its own energy and its own understanding. And the reason it's taking time to get to this point is because that's what's going on. It needs to take that time. And I'm doing this by myself too, guys, right? I have a couple of awesome Patreon supporters. However, actually, I need to fix that up and we need to look at that in the new year as well. However, apart from that, I pay for this all myself. I did all the work in the studio myself. It's all me and the brothers of UTC. All right. And that's what I mean. It's not all me, it's we. We did the studio over the last 12 months, but understand it came out of my pocket. This is just me doing me. And, the look that the studio has now is unreal, right? The video and it's more me than it's ever been. And I think I just needed a little bit of time to integrate the sudden change. And I had a couple of conversations because obviously, some brothers and my wife have asked me, am I okay? Because traditionally in the past, I haven't dealt well with sudden change. However, I don't think that anybody does either. Okay. I think people like to pretend they can deal with change, but especially sudden and quite massive change is very difficult to deal with for anybody. And I've been cool, calm, and collected about it mostly because why not? Like, why, if you can't understand sorry, let me start again. Me understanding my previous reactions, knowing those previous reactions didn't serve me, and knowing they didn't serve not only me but my family and created all manner of things, then the question then is, if the same thing happens again and you react in the same way, then what are we talking about? Right? I think I said it in the cost of awareness, and if I didn't, I'll say it now. Once you realize you're crazy, it's your job then not to be crazy, okay? Because you can't be crazy if you know you're crazy, because crazy people don't know that they're crazy, okay? So if you know you're crazy, it's now your job not to be crazy, especially when the same thing happens. If you allow yourself to be crazy, knowing the result and knowing what will happen, then you need to take responsibility for that. You did that to yourself and those around you. So the same thing happened again, and I chose to react in a different way. I mean, what is the fucking point of everything that we've been doing here? All the things that we've discussed, all the things that I've shared, the evolutions, the understandings, the deep conversations. If we're not implementing what we're doing, then what's the point? There is no point. And if you want to find the way forward, then it is implementing the lessons learned and understanding those lessons. You know, and the other thing is too is that I've been released back into society. I've had to go and hustle and talk to people and meet people and drive in traffic, which has been a bit of a crazy thing that I didn't think about. Being deep in traffic, just never haven't done it for years. Just hadn't done it. That's and having to meet people and put big people clothes on to go into interviews and have discussions and meetings and that sort of stuff. It's just stuff I haven't done in years, guys. And I'm returning back to society is a fascinating thing because again, I look at society through a much different lens now after COVID. I look at society through a much different lens now after the intense period of self-reflection that I've had because I understand not only my own effects on my environment, but I understand because I understand myself more, I can therefore understand others more. And I can see. And one of the reasons I can see, guys, is because I released my fear. I released my fear around practically everything. Because what is the point? You can only control what you can control. You can only do what you can do. And, those of us that held the line and really looked into ourselves during the last 4 or 5 years learned a lot about fear and understanding and mass formation psychosis and group mind think. And like there's so many lessons for those that observed. Again, maybe release yourself from whatever purgatory you're in. And it's time to implement those lessons. Because I know, and you know that you know. The fact that if you aren't doing it, that's you. Not to quote Yoda at 20 to 10 in the evening, but do or do not. And do not's totally fine. If you don't want to do anything, that's fine. However, understand that has its own set of consequences. It's much better to do. And there's two things that have been running around in my mind that I'll finish with now. And it's just two small reels. And one of them's Bill Burr going, everything's going to be okay. And isn't it better to pretend that it is okay, even if it's not? And what do you really got to complain about? Not much, really. And if it goes wrong, well, it goes wrong. Deal with it then. But everything's going to be okay. I think one of the things I have now that I may have never had before in my life, really, if I think about it, is faith. Faith in myself, faith in a higher power, faith in a higher understanding. And I do think it's going to be okay. And I'd be curious as a reflection of Unsupervised 12, where we see how this goes and what it does. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be back behind the mic. I'm excited for where the show's going to go. Like I said, I've got a few in the bag and they're very cool conversations as usual. I'm going to start dragging some bigger guests and doing some international stuff. However, UTC was always about sitting down with cool people that I know and having cool conversations. And if the opportunity arises to have a cool conversation with someone else, then we'll do that. And there's a fair few people that I want to bring back or have be part of UTC3. So, and like the documentary's coming out, that's crazy. Co-hosting Sacred Site is unbelievable. And I really, yeah, I didn't, humbling to be on that list of names. And like I said, that research has exponentially accelerated since that documentary, and a lot of mum's the word, secret squirrel business that we can't discuss till later. The last reel that, you know, because obviously they do a good job, right? Those reels get in our heads, don't they? And one of the other ones, it's Johnny Depp. It's like hating requires caring, and I'd just caring requires a lot of energy, and I'd rather not. I'm not going to expend my energy on things that don't serve me. I'm just not. My energy and my life, precious life force, is worth too much, and so is yours. Do not expend energy. You know, caring requires energy, and hate and negative emotion, all of it requires energy. And I don't have the energy for that. And it just, there's no point to it. Live your life, be cool, peace and love. And as we discussed in one of the upcoming episodes, go fuck yourself is still totally on the table. However, I'd much prefer peace and love. Why have enemies when you can have friends? But again, if someone has outstayed their welcome or they are no longer welcome, that's okay too. With peace and love, go fuck yourself. And I can't think of a better way to end that, right? Actually, no, I can think of a better way to end it. Hang on, can I reach the book? Give me 2 seconds. Should have had this on hand. Again, we're drawing from a guide for the advanced soul. For those on camera, you can see that I've got my eyes closed and I'm just flicking through the pages. What is the final message for myself and everybody? Unsupervised. 12. Okay. I want to beseech you to be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers. Curious. Which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. Oh, it's one. Okay. Okay, we've got a poem here. I want to beseech you to be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps then, perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, evolve some distant day into the answer. Interesting. If that's not a literal poem about unlocking the code, I'm not sure what is. Live the questions. The questions is what's fascinating. And look, that's interesting. Yeah, don't worry about the answer. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. This is fascinating. This is interesting. And I can see that. And we're just here at UTC asking questions. Because the more questions we ask, the less answers we get. It just ends up with more questions. Like I said, the research and the expeditions have expanded exponentially, but it's all just more questions. Some answers, however, more questions. I think that'll do me. It's been cool. I enjoyed this. Look after yourselves. Welcome to UTC 3. It's going to be fun. Hope all is well with you and yours. Please take care, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.